If you believe that you have access to reality, at some point you then can get a monopoly on truth. And if my perception of reality is different from yours, and I'm the hero, then you've got to be the villain. And when there's a constant reminder that all I'm doing is perceiving the world my way, not the real way, then I can have empathy for others. I still don't have access to reality because none of us ever do.
Mel Gibson revealed exactly who is controlling reality. You're about to discover a reality-altering revelation, something so shocking, so powerful, that once you see it, you can never unsee it. The controllers of reality. Mel Gibson knows something he's not supposed to know. Something about Hollywood, about power, about identity, about the hidden forces that shape reality itself. They tried to silence him. They mocked him. They cast him out. They whispered his name in hushed voices like a warning. But why? What was so dangerous about what he knew? The truth is, Mel Gibson was never just another actor. He was never just another celebrity caught up in the illusions of fame and fortune. He saw through the veil, and when he spoke about what he saw, the world recoiled. Because what he revealed wasn't just about Hollywood, it was about the world itself, the system, the force that bends reality, molds perception, and keeps billions asleep. This is not about conspiracy. This is about something older, something deeper, something woven into the very fabric of existence. Every civilization has whispered about them, the unseen hands, the architects of thought, the weavers of the dream we call reality. They are the silent sculptors of perception, the hidden forces that shape belief, guide destiny, and veil the deeper truths of existence. Ancient texts speak of them in different ways, hinting at their elusive presence behind the grand illusion of the world. The Gnostics called them the archons, malevolent entities that manipulate human minds and keep souls trapped in ignorance. In Hindu philosophy, they were described as Maya, the cosmic illusion that binds the soul to the ephemeral, convincing mortals that the transient is permanent and the dream is real. Even the great minds of the Western tradition alluded to their existence. Plato's allegory of the cave paints a haunting picture of prisoners shackled in darkness, mistaking flickering shadows for reality, while the true world remains hidden behind them. The philosopher warned that most people, content with illusions, would resist enlightenment if shown the greater truth. Across cultures and ages, whispers of these unseen manipulators have surfaced in different forms: jinn, trickster spirits, cosmic forces, or even the machinations of hidden elites. Are they entities beyond human comprehension, or simply the constructs of our own self-imposed limitations? Are they the gatekeepers of truth, or the jailers of the mind? Whatever they are, one thing remains certain: those who begin to perceive the illusion for what it is are never quite the same again. But Mel Gibson didn't speak in riddles or ancient allegories. He spoke about Hollywood, and that was enough to send shockwaves through the system. Hollywood isn't just an industry, it's a reality factory. It doesn't just entertain, it programs. It sculpts human consciousness, plants ideas, and bends the will of entire generations. And Mel Gibson saw the hands behind the curtain. He saw how stories were shaped, how truth was distorted, how perception was manipulated. He saw how those who step out of line are ridiculed, exiled, and erased. And then he saw something even darker. Look closely. There is a pattern. Those who get too close to the truth are met with the same fate. Some are turned into villains overnight, their faces smeared across headlines, their past mistakes amplified, their names dragged through the mud. Some are suddenly deemed crazy, their words twisted, their voices muted, and some simply disappear, their presence erased, their influence snuffed out like a candle in the wind. The world is filled with distractions, bright lights, fast-moving images, and endless noise. But silence speaks louder. The absence of a voice is sometimes the clearest message. Mel Gibson felt the weight of that silence pressing down on him. He saw it happening in real time, saw how the machine operates, saw how reality is sculpted like clay in the hands of those who never wanted to be seen. But here's the real question. If reality is being controlled, then who or what is controlling it? The illusion of freedom. Most people live their lives believing they are free. Free to think, free to choose, free to shape their own destiny. But what if that freedom is just another illusion? What if the choices we make, the thoughts we have, and the paths we walk are not truly our own, but are shaped by forces unseen, social conditioning, cultural narratives, and invisible structures of control that dictate the limits of what we can perceive? The philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau famously wrote, "Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains." In The Social Contract, 1762, he argued that human beings, while possessing the inherent capacity for freedom, are gradually shackled by the very societies they create. From birth, individuals are molded by the expectations of their families, governments, and traditions, absorbing the rules and limitations of the world without ever questioning their origins. What we consider normal is often a carefully constructed framework designed to ensure compliance rather than true autonomy. Even deeper than political and social constraints, modern psychology suggests that much of what we believe to be our own thoughts may be the result of subconscious programming. From childhood, we are exposed to media, education systems, religious doctrines, and social expectations that shape our worldview long before we are capable of independent thought. The philosopher Michel Foucault explored how power operates not just through laws and rulers, but through the very structures of knowledge itself. He argued that institutions, from schools to prisons to hospitals, imposed disciplinary power, conditioning people to self-regulate and conform without the need for overt coercion. This illusion of freedom extends beyond the external world into the very nature of human perception. Plato's allegory of the cave describes prisoners chained inside a dark cavern, watching shadows flickering on a wall. To them, these shadows are reality because they have never seen the world beyond the cave. Only by breaking free from their chains and stepping into the light can they perceive the true nature of existence. Plato's message is clear. Most people accept the world as it is presented to them, unaware that a deeper reality exists beyond their conditioned experience. Today, this allegory takes on even greater significance in the digital age. Algorithms dictate what we see, corporations harvest our data, and information bubbles reinforce existing beliefs, giving us the illusion of choice while subtly guiding our decisions. We believe we are freely selecting what to watch, what to buy, or what opinions to hold, but these choices are often predetermined by the systems around us. Aldous Huxley, in Brave New World, warned of a future where people would be enslaved not by force, but by pleasure, where distractions and comforts would keep them from ever realizing they were in a prison of their own making. True freedom may not be about simply making choices, but about understanding the forces that shape those choices in the first place. The real challenge lies in recognizing the chains before we can begin to break them. Imagine a magician performing a trick. The audience is mesmerized, believing they are making their own choices, seeing reality as it truly is. But the magician knows better. He controls the stage, the angles, the distractions. He leads the eyes exactly where he wants them to go. Now ask yourself, what if the world operates the same way? What if the choices you believe you are making are simply the ones you are meant to make? Mel Gibson understood this. He saw how people's thoughts were shaped without them even realizing it. He saw how the system feeds illusions of power, success, and individualism, when in reality, it is all part of a grander, hidden orchestration. The moment you start asking the right questions, the illusion begins to crack. And that's exactly what happened to Mel Gibson. In every ancient civilization, there were always those who whispered about the unseen rulers, the beings who exist not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Some believed they were entities beyond human comprehension, forces that feed on energy, on belief, on obedience. Others saw them as something more tangible, powerful elites, hidden dynasties, bloodlines that stretch across centuries, passing down secrets, controlling narratives, pulling strings. Mel Gibson's downfall wasn't about a single moment. It wasn't about a scandal or a mistake. It was about something bigger. He named the players. He spoke of forces that were never meant to be spoken about. And that is the greatest crime in a controlled reality. To point at the magician and tell the audience that it's all a trick. If everything you know has been shaped for you, sculpted, controlled, then what does that say about your perception of truth? Most people would rather not know. It's easier that way, safer, comforting even. The illusion is warm, familiar, reassuring. But the moment you begin to see the cracks, there's no going back. Mel Gibson saw the cracks. He saw the machine for what it was. And in doing so, he did something far more dangerous than simply speaking out. He invited others to see it too, and that is why they tried to silence him. But the truth has a way of slipping through the cracks. It moves like water, filling the spaces between the lies. It waits for those who are willing to open their eyes. Because once you see it, you can never go back. The machinery of control. The moment you begin to see the illusion, everything changes. It's like waking up from a dream you didn't even know you were having. You look around and realize that the walls of your reality were never solid. The people you trusted to tell you the truth were never honest. The rules you followed, the beliefs you held, the fears that kept you in line, all of them were placed there, not by accident, not by chance, but by design. Mel Gibson saw it. But here's the thing about truth. It doesn't just reveal itself to anyone. It doesn't knock on your door and introduce itself with a friendly smile. No, truth hides in the places most people are too afraid to look. And when someone like Mel Gibson gets too close, the system responds. Not with open confrontation, not with reasoned debate, but with silence, with exile, with a slow, careful erasure. Because if you control reality, you don't need to fight your enemies. You just make sure no one hears them. To understand what Mel Gibson uncovered, you have to step back and see the full picture. Hollywood is not just an industry. It is not just entertainment. It is a machine that shapes human thought, sculpts perception, and molds consciousness on a massive scale. Think about it. What do most people believe about the world? Where do their ideas about good and evil come from? About power, about history, about the future? They come from stories, from movies, from television. And who tells those stories? Who funds them? Who decides which ideas are promoted and which are buried? The answer to that question is what got Mel Gibson in trouble. He spoke of the hidden architects, the ones who decide which movies get made, which messages are pushed, which celebrities rise, and which ones fall. The ones who can turn an unknown actor into a superstar overnight, or erase a household name as if they never existed. And once you understand that, the next question becomes even more disturbing. If they control the stories, do they also control reality? In ancient times, rulers understood that power wasn't just about armies or weapons. It was about stories. The pharaohs of Egypt were seen as gods because that's the story they told. The Roman emperors controlled their people not just through force, but through myths, through theater, through the grand illusion of order and destiny. Nothing has changed. The system still operates the same way. The only difference is that now, instead of stone tablets or whispered legends, the stories are broadcast in high definition, projected onto millions of screens, embedded into the subconscious minds of billions. Mel Gibson saw how it worked. He saw that Hollywood doesn't just reflect reality, it creates it. And if you can create reality, then you can control what people believe. And if you can control what people believe, you can control them. The ones who know. Mel Gibson was not the first to uncover this. Throughout history, there have always been those who saw through the illusion, the ones who stepped outside the boundaries of accepted thought, who looked behind the curtain and understood that the world is not what it seems. Some called them prophets, some called them madmen, some were worshipped, some were burned at the stake, and some, like Mel Gibson, were cast out. But here's where it gets even stranger. The moment someone speaks the truth, the system doesn't just silence them. It does something far more insidious. It distorts them. It turns them into a villain, a joke, or a cautionary tale. Look at how they treat those who step out of line. Look at the pattern. It happens over and over again. Mel Gibson wasn't destroyed because he was wrong. He was destroyed because he was right. Most people will never see the illusion for what it is. They will live their entire lives believing that they are free, that they are making their own choices, and that their thoughts and opinions are truly their own. They will defend the system that controls them, even as it drains them, misleads them, and blinds them. Because that is the nature of a truly great illusion. It makes you love your chains. But if you are watching this, then maybe you are different. Maybe you felt it too, that nagging sense that something isn't right, that the world you were told about doesn't quite add up. That feeling is the first step. It means you are waking up. And once you begin to wake up, you start to notice the cracks in the illusion everywhere. The prison you can't see. From the moment you were born, your identity has been programmed into you. Before you spoke your first words, before you took your first steps, before you even knew what it meant to be you, the world had already decided who you were supposed to be. The system was already shaping you, molding you, whispering in your ear through every voice of authority. They gave you a name. They told you where you belonged. They taught you what was possible and what was not. And you believed them. Because why wouldn't you? You had no reason to question. But now, something inside you is stirring. A small voice, a quiet thought, a sense that maybe, just maybe, you were meant for something more. That reality is not what you were told, that the life you have been living is not truly yours. Because if everything about you was given to you, your beliefs, your fears, your limitations, then what happens when you strip all of that away? Most people never realize they are in a prison, because this prison has no walls, no guards, no chains. It is made of ideas. It is built from the stories you were told as a child, the education you received, and the traditions passed down through generations. It is enforced not with force, but with something far more powerful: acceptance and rejection. Step outside the invisible boundaries, and you will see how quickly the system corrects you. Try questioning the rules and watch how those around you react. They don't need to threaten you. They don't need to lock you away. They simply make sure you feel wrong, because the greatest prisons are the ones where the prisoners police themselves. The power of programming. Think about it. Every major institution in your life, school, religion, government, media, exists to shape your mind, to teach you how to think, what to value, what to fear. They don't tell you to seek truth. They tell you to memorize facts. They don't encourage independent thought. They reward obedience. From childhood, you were taught who to trust and who to doubt. Certain voices were given authority, while others were ridiculed or silenced. And if you were to step back, just for a moment, and ask why things are the way they are, why certain ideas are considered crazy while others are acceptable, you might begin to see the cracks in the illusion. Because the truth is, the world does not want you to wake up. Every civilization has its architects, the ones who design the world in which others live. In ancient times, it was the priests and kings, the ones who controlled the myths that shaped entire societies. Today, it is no different. The architects of reality do not appear on television. They do not run for office. They are not the faces you see in history books. Because real power is never where you think it is. They don't rule through force, but through influence. They do it by controlling thought itself. The easiest way to control thought is through repetition, through stories, through the constant reinforcement of an idea until it becomes unquestioned truth. They do not tell you what to think. They simply create a world where certain thoughts never even occur to you. The reason most people never break free is simple: fear. The system does not need to force you into submission. It just needs to make sure that questioning it feels dangerous. Think about it. What happens when someone starts seeing the illusion? What happens when they step outside the lines? They are called crazy. They are laughed at. They are told they are imagining things, because the first defense of the system is always ridicule. If that doesn't work, it shifts to isolation. It makes sure that those who see the truth feel alone. They doubt themselves. They believe it is safer to stay silent, and if even that fails, the system turns to destruction. It erases, it discredits, it ensures that no one listens. This is how control works, not through chains, but through fear of the unknown. But here's the secret they don't want you to know. The moment you truly wake up, the fear disappears. You realize that the walls around you were never real, that the limits you believed in were nothing more than illusions, that the people who told you what was possible never had any real power except the power you gave them. And once you take that power back, everything changes. You begin to see the world as it truly is, not as you were taught to see it. You stop accepting the stories you were given and start writing your own. And that is what the system fears most. This idea aligns closely with Eastern philosophy, particularly Buddhist and Hindu traditions, which emphasize that reality as we perceive it is often an illusion, shaped by ignorance and attachment. In Hinduism, this concept is captured in Maya, the great illusion that veils the true nature of existence. The Upanishads teach that the world we experience is like a dream, a projection of our conditioned minds. What we see as solid, real, and unchangeable is, in fact, impermanent and deceptive. The limits we believe in, whether social, psychological, or physical, exist only because we accept them as real. Enlightenment, moksha, comes when one realizes that these barriers were never truly there. Similarly, in Buddhism, the idea of emptiness, shunyata, as taught in Mahayana philosophy, suggests that all things, including societal structures, identities, and limitations, are devoid of inherent existence. They only appear real because of our conditioned attachment to them. The Buddha taught that suffering arises when we take illusions to be reality. Liberation, nirvana, comes not through fighting against limitations, but through seeing them for what they are, mental constructs, not absolute truths. In both traditions, the key to freedom is awareness. The moment you realize that the walls around you were never real, you step into a greater reality, one where the only true limits are those imposed by the mind. the hidden hand of influence. There is a reason you were never taught to question the nature of reality. From childhood, you were handed a version of the world and told it was the only truth. It came from teachers, media, religious leaders, and authority figures who all shared the same message. This is the way things are. Accept it. But what if everything you know was crafted to keep you from understanding your true power? Mel Gibson's brief exposure of Hollywood's hidden forces was just a fragment of something much larger. What he encountered was not unique to the entertainment industry. It was merely a reflection of a deeper, ancient system that has always existed. Society offers you choices, but none that lead to true freedom. You can pick between political parties, career paths, ideologies, and identities, but these options are carefully designed to keep you within a controlled framework. No matter what you choose, you remain inside the system. This is why rebellion, too, is often an illusion. Movements that claim to challenge authority are frequently absorbed, rebranded, and turned into controlled opposition. The same institutions that push conformity also create the illusion of resistance, allowing people to feel like they are fighting back while still playing by the rules of the system. Hollywood thrives on this mechanism. Films and music often depict rebellion, awakening, or revolution, but only within predefined limits. The stories that truly break the illusion never reach mainstream audiences. They are buried, censored, or rewritten. Mel Gibson's conflicts with Hollywood were not about a single incident or statement. He collided with a structure that does not tolerate those who refuse to follow the script. Power in this world does not operate openly. It moves through layers of influence, institutions, and networks. The faces you see in politics, business, and entertainment are not the architects of reality. They are functionaries, actors playing roles assigned to them. Real control operates from the shadows, passed down through generations, preserved through secrecy. It is woven into financial systems that dictate global economies. It is embedded in media that crafts public perception. It is present in religious institutions that shape belief. And it is strongest where it remains unseen, influencing without detection. This is why questioning official narratives is met with such hostility. The system has trained people to defend their programming. Those who challenge it are dismissed as irrational, dangerous, or delusional. The power of symbols. The language of control is not spoken outright. It is encoded in symbols, rituals, and repeated imagery. Throughout history, rulers and secret societies have used symbols to communicate hidden knowledge. These marks are present in architecture, corporate logos, religious iconography, and even Hollywood films. They signal allegiance, reinforce influence, and remind those within the system who truly hold power. Mel Gibson, like others before him, recognized these patterns. The reaction against him was not just about his words, but about the implications of what he saw. He had glimpsed the machinery of influence, the interconnected web that shapes perception itself. The greatest trick ever played on humanity was convincing people they are powerless. The system does not want you to realize that perception shapes reality, that belief creates experience, and that the mind is far more powerful than you were ever taught. This is why fear is the primary tool of control. A fearful mind is easy to manipulate. It reacts rather than thinks, obeys rather than questions. The more afraid people are, the easier it is to steer them. The terror management theory, developed by Sheldon Solomon, Jeff Greenberg, and Tom Piszczynski, is based on the idea that humans possess a unique awareness of their own mortality. Unlike other animals, people understand that death is inevitable, creating a deep, often subconscious anxiety that must be managed to function in daily life. According to TMT, individuals cope with this fear by seeking meaning, stability, and security through cultural worldviews, belief systems, and authority structures that provide a sense of order. When people are reminded of their mortality, a phenomenon known as mortality salience, they tend to react in predictable ways, often becoming more rigid in their beliefs and behaviors. Research has shown that heightened awareness of death leads to stronger attachment to existing cultural values and increased defensiveness toward opposing viewpoints. People are more likely to conform to authority and traditional structures because strong leaders, religious institutions, and nationalistic ideals offer a sense of stability in uncertain times. At the same time, mortality salience has been found to intensify hostility toward perceived outsiders or threats, increasing prejudice, nationalism, and willingness to support aggressive policies against those who are seen as a danger to the established order. TMT has profound implications for politics and governance. Throughout history, leaders have leveraged existential fear to maintain control, unify populations, and justify policies that might otherwise face resistance. Political figures who emphasize external threats such as war, terrorism, economic collapse, or societal breakdown can manipulate public perception by positioning themselves as protectors, encouraging obedience, and discouraging dissent. A clear example of this occurred in the United States following the events of 2001. Public fear of terrorism led to widespread support for government surveillance, military intervention, and restrictions on civil liberties, all framed as necessary measures to ensure security. Studies found that when individuals were reminded of terrorism, they became more likely to support authoritarian policies. Similarly, during times of economic crisis, leaders who present themselves as strong, decisive figures gain popularity because they offer certainty in unstable conditions. Economic instability has frequently led to the rise of populist or authoritarian leaders who promise security, even at the expense of personal freedoms. Propaganda and media narratives also play a significant role in reinforcing fear-based control. Constant exposure to news cycles focused on crime, pandemics, or foreign threats keeps populations in a heightened state of anxiety, making them more susceptible to manipulation. TMT research suggests that when people are afraid, they engage in irrational decision-making, prioritizing security over personal freedoms. This is due to the way fear shifts cognitive processing from deliberative reasoning to emotional, survival-based responses. Neurological studies have shown that when fear is activated, the amygdala, the brain's fear center, becomes highly active, reducing the influence of the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for critical thinking and rational decision-making. This explains why fear-based political campaigns are highly effective, why individuals may support policies that limit their own freedoms when framed as necessary for safety, and why dissenters or critics of fear-driven narratives are often labeled as threats themselves, reinforcing social conformity. Understanding terror management theory is crucial for resisting manipulation. Awareness of how fear influences decision-making can help you take a step back, engage in critical thinking, and challenge narratives designed to provoke compliance. Ultimately, TMT reveals an uncomfortable truth. Those who control fear control people. But once you stop reacting to fear, once you begin to see beyond the distractions, the illusion begins to break. You start to notice the patterns, the conditioning, the false choices. You see how entire belief systems were placed around you like walls in a prison you never knew existed. The fracturing of the system. If you've made it this far, something inside you has already begun to shift. You've started to recognize that the world you were given is not the world as it truly is. You see the control mechanisms, the narratives, the illusions that were placed around you like an invisible cage. But the question remains, what happens when that illusion collapses? Mel Gibson's journey was not just about exposing Hollywood. It was a glimpse into something deeper, the forces that shape perception itself. When he spoke out, the system reacted violently, not because he was wrong, but because he was dangerously close to a truth they have spent centuries concealing. But the illusion is beginning to unravel, and those who once controlled reality are losing their grip. For centuries, control was absolute. Belief systems were stable, power structures remained intact, and those who ruled from the shadows did so without challenge. But cracks have begun to appear. Mistrust in institutions is at an all-time high. People no longer accept the official story without question. The once powerful influence of mainstream media has weakened. Information flows freely in ways the controllers never anticipated. The spell they cast over humanity is breaking, and they are terrified. This is why censorship has increased. It's why narratives are becoming more aggressive, why fear is being amplified at unprecedented levels. When control begins to slip, the system panics. It tries to tighten its grip, but in doing so, it exposes itself. Mel Gibson experienced this firsthand. He wasn't destroyed outright, he was discredited. That is always the first tactic: make the truth-bearer look unstable, irrational, dangerous. Because if people actually listened, if they truly considered what he was saying, they might begin to see the cracks themselves. The war for consciousness. The true battle is not fought with weapons or laws. It is fought in the mind. Control has never been about physical power. It has always been about belief. Those who shape reality do so by controlling perception. They dictate what is real, what is possible, and what is acceptable to think. This is why awakening is so dangerous to them. The moment you begin to think for yourself, their power weakens. The entire system is built on compliance, on people willingly accepting the narratives they are given. When that compliance ends, so does their rule, and this is happening on a massive scale. People are no longer looking to governments, celebrities, or institutions for truth. They are searching within themselves, rediscovering ancient knowledge, questioning everything they were taught. This is why spiritual awakening is met with such resistance, because it leads to true freedom, the kind that no external force can control. The controllers are losing their ability to maintain the illusion, but that does not mean they will surrender willingly. When systems of control collapse, they do not go quietly. They fight to maintain dominance, to reassert their influence through chaos and distraction. The final stages of control are often the most desperate. This is why narratives are shifting so rapidly, why confusion is being weaponized, and why division is being pushed harder than ever. If people are lost in fear, uncertainty, and conflict, they are easier to manipulate. But the greatest danger is not the collapse itself, it is what comes next. When an old system dies, something new must take its place. If the same forces that controlled the past shape the future, the cycle of deception continues. The only way to break free is to stop looking for external rulers, external saviors, and external authority. Because the greatest truth of all is this: you were never powerless. Reality is not fixed. It is shaped by consciousness, by perception, by belief. The controllers understood this. That is why they fought so hard to keep you in a state of fear, because fear narrows perception. It makes you small, weak, and dependent. But when you break free from fear, when you begin to see beyond the illusion, you step into your true power. The death of the old world. The illusion is falling apart. For centuries, the hidden architects of reality operated in the shadows, weaving narratives, shaping belief systems, and controlling perception itself. They crafted the world you live in, deciding what was possible, what was real, and what was forbidden. But something has changed. The powers that once ruled unchallenged are beginning to fade. The system they built is fracturing. More people are awakening, questioning the narratives, and breaking free from the conditioning that kept them blind. This is the final stage of the battle, the moment when the controllers face their greatest threat, a humanity that is no longer asleep. Every system of control reaches a breaking point. Empires rise and fall, religions evolve or collapse, political structures that once seemed invincible fade into irrelevance. The cycle of history is littered with once powerful institutions that eventually crumbled under the weight of their own deception. And now, the greatest deception of all, the illusion of reality itself, is beginning to dissolve. Mel Gibson's conflict with Hollywood was just one example of this. He wasn't merely exposing corruption in the entertainment industry. He was pointing towards something deeper, the unseen hand that has shaped human perception for generations. When he spoke out, they tried to silence him. Not with force, but with ridicule, discrediting him in the public eye. This is the oldest trick in the book. Make truth seekers look insane so that no one takes them seriously. But their methods are failing. The more they try to control the narrative, the more obvious their manipulation becomes. People are beginning to see through the veil. The final battle for the human mind. This was never just about power. It was about control of consciousness. The rulers of this world have always understood that the key to control is belief. If you control what people believe, you control what they create. You dictate their fears, their desires, their understanding of reality. This is why Hollywood, the media, education, and religion have all been used as tools of programming. They were never meant to inform or enlighten. They were meant to shape perception, to keep humanity within carefully crafted boundaries. But now, those boundaries are breaking. The collective awakening is accelerating. More people are questioning, more minds are expanding, more souls are remembering their true nature, and the controllers are panicking. This is why fear is chaos, divide and distract, keep people fighting amongst themselves, keep them afraid, and make them desperate for authority to save them. Because the moment humanity stops looking to external rulers, the game is over. The greatest secret, the truth they have fought so hard to suppress, is that reality is not fixed. It is fluid, shaped by consciousness. What you believe, what you focus on, what you accept as true, this is what creates the world around you. For thousands of years, they made you believe you were powerless, that you were at the mercy of fate, of governments, of external forces, that you had no control over your life, over your destiny, over reality itself. But the truth is the opposite. They never had power over you. They only had power over your perception. The moment you stop believing in their illusion, their control vanishes. This is why they fear awakening more than anything. Because an awakened humanity does not obey. It does not submit. It does not live in fear. It creates. It manifests. It steps into the power it was always meant to have. The controllers are losing. The systems they built to keep humanity enslaved are crumbling. The illusion is collapsing, and they know it. That is why the world feels so chaotic right now. The old world is dying, and those who once ruled it are desperately trying to hold on. But they cannot stop what is coming. A new world is being born, not one built on control, but on awareness. Not one dictated by hidden forces, but created by awakened minds. Mel Gibson saw the cracks in the illusion. He spoke out, and they tried to silence him. But the truth cannot be silenced forever. And now, the final revelation is here. The only thing that ever controlled your reality was your own belief. The moment you reclaim that power, you are free. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.